Good evening, everyone. I'm City Administrator Greg Elliott. I would like to address a few things before the mayor requests the roll call. This is the pre-meeting, which is a forum for the city commission to discuss various issues and topics. For much of the meeting, we ask that participants mute themselves to allow the commissioners to have their discussions and to minimize any background noise that may be disruptive. An opportunity for public comment will be provided at the end of the meeting, and participants will be invited to unmute and address the commission if they wish. Talked in the past about Zoom bombing. This is where a virtual meeting is interrupted by people who fill the screen with objectionable content. If this happens during our meeting tonight, we will disconnect the meeting and restart after a few minutes. Attendees can reconnect via the same link. We will also turn over the video of the meeting to law enforcement for investigation. Thank you all for participating. Mayor, I'll turn the meeting over to you for the roll call.
Roll call, please, Robin.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Halt,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Watson,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Present.
all commission members present.
At this time, I will hand it right back over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor. First item for discussion tonight is entitled Frank Street Lot. If I could have my screen share up, I'll show you which lot on Frank Street I'm talking about. The address of it, while we're waiting for that, is 623. So it's two lots, or one lot in from the corner of Tecumseh and Frank at the northwest corner. You can see it's the one that shows up in the pinkish color there. That lot is vacant, and we've had and the city owns it. The city owns it, I believe, through tax sale, but we've had interest from both neighbors in it, and I had Jeremiah look at it, and it would be a buildable lot, but for the fact that it's currently zoned B2. If you're aware of this, but all the lots up and down Tecumseh Street on either side are zoned B2. Even though a lot of them are used for residential purposes. This one would not be buildable for B2 purposes, but if it were rezoned to the R4 district, which is the yellow there that you see adjacent to it, which most of the residential lots are zoned in their single family zoning district, smaller lots, then it would be buildable. And we could offer it for sale to anyone who might want to build on it, or the neighbors, if at least one of them had expressed interest in also building on it. So that would maximize the value of the lot, and the city doesn't really have any reason to want to own it. I do have a resolution on the agenda on your regular meeting, or I don't know what to call it tonight because it's a special regular meeting, but on the business meeting agenda to initiate that process if you're in agreement. So kind of two things: initiate rezoning and then come back with authority later after it's been rezoned to go out to bid for the sale of that lot. Happy to answer any questions about that, or for any guidance you might want to give me on that matter.
Hey, Greg, this is something that we go through or have gone through a number of times. Is there a single parcel that we own that isn't available for sale? Obviously, like our facilities and things aren't available for sale, but we've run into this before where people are like, aren't you going to post this for sale or whatnot? Every parcel that we sit on is available for sale. Is that not accurate?
Essentially, I mean, in the real estate world, we say everything's for sale, and that's true for a price. I don't feel like in every circumstance we have to take bids. Obviously, we've sold property recently that we haven't taken bids on, and in more sophisticated transactions, that's not the way you would want to do it, that you don't maximize value that way. But in this case, because it is of potentially of value, not just to the neighbors, I think that would make sense as a process for disposing of it, but regardless, it's people are dumping stuff on there. It doesn't do any good to not have or for us to be the sort of absentee owners of it. So I would like to dispose of it through some process.
No, I'm totally with you on the idea of disposing of it and getting it so it's usable, so it can be disposed of. My point is that I feel like sometimes our action does a prospective buyer a disservice, because somebody all of a sudden is interested in a parcel that we own that's available for sale, and then we knock the bushes and make a big deal that it's available for sale, but it's been available for sale for the last 10 years. Is there really any further action that we need to take to make it available for sale, or to encourage other bidders when it's been sitting around forever?
Not necessarily. I mean, we could advertise it. I mean, at the point where we have bids, we'll bring it back to you. Well, the action that I want the commission to take tonight is simply to initiate the rezoning of it. I don't think it would make sense to sell it as a commercially zoned parcel, given that the parcel on the corner is a house and is used residentially. I think that could lead to problems for the neighborhood if it were sold, and could potentially be used for the B2 sorts of uses.
Got it. Okay.
Greg, which parcel? I'm looking at the map. Which one is it? You said the corner.
I think Michelle's cursor. No, her cursor is not on it. You can't really see it, and you can't see my cursor because I'm not screen sharing. But if you look at the northwest corner of Tecumseh and Frank, it's then the next. I'm pointing at it like you can see, but you can't. Then the next, it's one lot in from the corner, 623, if you can see the numbers on there.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's the lone pink one in a stream. There's one yellow, a pink, and then a stream of yellow, correct?
No, it's the one the cursor's on right now.
Yeah, now the cursor's on it right now.
Why do we own that?
As I say, I think it must have been a tax sale. I don't absolutely know why we own it, but
I drove by it. It's like directly across from Daily Bread. Like Daily Bread's the side of the building of Daily Bread. But yeah, it's just an empty lot sitting right there. I was wondering why we owned it as well.
we may have got it because there was a home on it that was demolished, and I think we may have got it because it didn't sell for the amount of the lien.
It makes sense to rezone it residential to me and try and sell it.
Yes.
We don't want to be owning it.
No. And I think if you sell it to the neighbors, they just want it for a bigger yard. I'm guessing, right? Was that?
Well, one does, but the other had expressed interest in putting another unit on it, another house on it.
Yeah, I'm good with rezoning it because it's all residential right there. Then it goes, B2. So
Yeah.
And so the process would be the same as back when we did the Marvin Farm. You refer it, if you pass the resolution tonight, it'll be referred to the planning commission. They'll review it, make a recommendation, and then it'll come back.
was there a house on it or a business? Because why would it be? I mean,
A house. There was a house.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that? Everybody comfortable? Okay.
We'll sell it.
Okay, we'll work on it. Moving on. Item number 2 is the discussion regarding street naming. Commissioner Castleberry asked us to get some clarity on this issue. You'll recall that we did do a policy on naming public places that I believe Commissioner Watson spearheaded. It doesn't specifically address streets, however. And we've had some interest in potentially renaming a street. Commissioner Castleberry can speak for herself on that point, but I guess the point of putting it on the pre-meeting is to determine, did we intend the policy on public places to apply to streets? If not, what do we want our process to be as it relates to potentially renaming streets? We did address this, or this came up previously when former Mayor Jacobson was interested in renaming a stretch of street. At that time, you had chosen not to act on that request, wanting to come up with a policy. When he came back later, he had the idea to do an honorary naming instead. And so the issue never really got decided as to what our process is as it relates to streets. Commissioner Castleberry, did you want to speak about your idea?
Yeah, I had some community members reach out to me. They would like to rename a street in Adrian after Larry Richardson, who was a City of Adrian police officer, and he was also the sheriff of Lenawee County. After retiring from APD, he was the youth police officer and served a great many youth in our community. And there was quite a bit of outpouring about that. And I think a lot of people are in favor of that. So I said I would look into how that happens. And that's kind of how we got here.
So in regards to Greg's comments about the policy, we purposely left streets off of there. And that was for a couple of reasons. The first being, there's only, I think, one street in town that if you renamed it, it wouldn't impact any businesses or residents. And that's the one that's on what would be like the south side there of Comstock Park, that stretch of College that Mayor Jacobson brought up. The second component being our policy has in it, talks about upkeep and maintenance of any kind of asset. And that's really hard to do when it comes to streets. And so, those are the two roots of why we didn't include streets in it, and because of it being so exclusive, as well as the idea of upkeep and maintenance around those assets. So, and we figured there's plenty of parks and areas that monuments or structures could be put in place that would fit into that policy, where a endowment or something for maintenance, because we didn't want to create any liabilities for the city to upkeep.
So when you say liabilities, can you explain that to me a little bit?
Yeah, like if you build a picnic shelter, who's going to maintain the shelter? And that's part of the policy, is to make sure that there's monies available to keep that up, so it's not an asset that needs to be maintained or further stretch our staff to maintain other assets that the city would hold.
What would the liability mean? You said the second thing you said about naming a street. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Because of the fact that there's only that one stretch of street in town that wouldn't impact anybody if you change something formally from, say, Scott Street to Richardson Street.
Mm-hmm.
That would impact every single resident along a certain stretch of street. There's only one street in town that currently has nothing active on it that you could rename. And so how do you pick who gets that? How do you pick, that kind of stuff? And then with that being the only street, then that's the prime one to get. So you don't have to, inconvenience people to change their address of 25 years from one to the other. That's the idea of the historical street is that, and you see it in bigger cities like Chicago, the Magnificent Mile. That's not a formal name. It's just the brown sign underneath the green sign that says Michigan Avenue. So that's why we stayed away from naming streets, is because there's only one, and because of the impact, possibly negative, that it would have on any number of people or businesses.
Okay.
But that doesn't preclude us from doing an honorary section of a street somewhere. Driving, I-75, 223, all of that. There are honorary sections, oftentimes for police officers, which doesn't entail them to change their address. It just says this section of the road is named after Officer whatever, John Doe. So is that something we could look into as part of a street naming, if we chose to do that, where it wouldn't affect any residents or businesses where they'd have to change their address, because it's not formally changing an address. It's an honorary section. The only cost to the city or to whoever would come up with it would be the sign, and then the upkeep of the sign, if it needs to be replaced every 5-10 years, if it gets hit, if it gets snow plowed over, whatever it might happen. Or it's just something we don't want to do, and we use our current policy and and name after places instead of a street.
And then if we do the honorary, what are the criteria around it? Because I mean, if you recall, the policy that we adopted had, you know, it needed a certain number of signatures. There was, I don't know, 3 or 4 different things at the end of it of what you had to do in order to get it for consideration.
Right. Which we could still use all of those same criteria. If we chose to.
I would be interested in, there was quite a few people interested. I would be interested in, I would put something back out to them and see what their thoughts are.
Was there a specific street or area they were looking?
They did not say a specific street. Somebody put it out and there was quite a bit of people chiming in on it.
Well, Kelly, how do you feel about the honorary idea? I'm guessing that a lot of these people who were chiming in on this would probably be a case of they think it's a good idea, just don't change my street name.
Right. Some of them may not even live in the city anymore. For sure. I think that would be, I think that's feasible. I think the impact of changing business and home addresses is they probably didn't consider that in wanting to honor Larry. They probably just consider wanting to honor Larry. So I think that would be feasible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Commissioner Watson, with it, you know, when his committee got together to get this policy adopted, I think it was more so we're not changing, you know, 50 streets in the city, you know, permanently. So that's one of those things where, of all people, Larry Richardson definitely qualifies for an honorary street, you know, or anything to be in that from his years of service. So yeah, I would, you know, say go back to your group and see if that's something they'd be interested in, and then if that's the case, I mean, Larry would definitely qualify, but there's also a little bit of a process you have to go through to get that. So we're not having every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming to us wanting to name a road after, you know, such and such, such and such. So, but yeah, Larry was impactful in my life as a youth. I mean, that's one of those things where, you know, I've always respected his service, but I think Commissioner Watson and his committee did a really good job of trying to, you know, nail that process down. But yeah, to get their temperature on it and see what they think, you know, because
I will do that.
yeah.
Or since we already have a policy for naming a public place, is there some public place that we could follow that policy instead of a street?
Great idea, Mary. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone to say nay when it comes to Larry.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how do we do it and where.
I will put that out there and then get back to you.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any further discussion on that matter?
Greg, can I chime in real quick?
Sure.
I will say that we do have a couple memorial signs along our streets. I can't remember both of their names, but one name is Bobby Williams. He's got a sign on East Beecher right next to the Shell gas station. It's just a small memorial sign reflecting Bobby. So if that's an idea or an option as well, we can certainly make something like that. But just wanted to throw that out there.
He was an APD officer. That's where he was killed.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they put, he was a former county commissioner. He made sure that every police officer in Lenawee County that had been killed in the line of duty, there was a piece of there was some highway or something named in memoriam after them.
Okay. Any more on that? Number 3 is an update on our recreation improvements. We're working on getting bid packages together for a splash pad for Parish Park and for pickleball courts for Riverside Park. You'll find next Monday night that we have the actual money for those programmed into the fiscal year budget for 21-22, just because by the time we are ready to spend money, it's undoubtedly going to be July, but we are moving forward with the process here. And Matt's got an update for you on some of what he's examined and what he hopes to bid out. Go ahead, Matt.
Thanks, Greg. So what you guys are looking at on the screen there is a pickleball court in Dundee. They were able to do this themselves. It's just a higher quality paint over a concrete surface. And I think that's what we're going to look to do in order to save some cost. We can, on the ice rink pad at Riverside Park, we could potentially fit 6 in that whole slab. If you guys would like 6, I've got an estimate. It's about $5,000 in paint. Nets are a couple $100 a piece. And then if you guys would like fencing around the entire thing and in between, it's about $35,000. A lot of the painting for the courts themselves, I think we could do in-house. The fencing, obviously, we would have to contract out, but I kind of want to get your feelings on how many you guys think we need, and if you guys are okay with using like a higher level paint over that surface in order to save some cost, rather than resurfacing it with a tennis court material.
And Matt, I know I had asked you about it after I drove out there and looked at it after a good rain, and there were quite a few puddles, but I didn't see any like cracks or any problems with the concrete surface. But is that an issue at all? Because obviously if it's puddling in certain areas, it must be dipping a little bit there.
Yeah, so the paint that we're going to use is self-leveling, so it'll kind of fill in some of the cracks and some of the divots. But I talked to the group that is asking for the courts, and they say it's pretty much inevitable. There's going to be water on the courts as long as the sun comes out, it'll dry up. They say they play with water on a lot of courts, and they would be willing to sweep it off when it does flood. Well, not flood, but when it gets puddles. So they didn't see too much of a concern about it.
And does that group have anything in mind? I had kind of heard a rumor, but I just want to see if they said anything to you. I'd heard a rumor that they were like willing to fork over the money to replace nets as time goes on within their pickleball group. I mean, have you heard anything along that line? Or I just kind of wondered like what our maintenance costs look like going forward after we install this.
I have not heard that. I can certainly reach out to them and ask. As far as maintenance going on, I would suppose we'd have to repaint the courts every couple years. So we're looking at roughly $5,000 every couple years. And then if someone tears a net, we'd have to replace that for a couple $100 periodically.
So cost-wise, Matt, from the original budget conversation, from where we were to where you are here with doing a lot of this in-house, where are we looking at when it comes to cost savings? Does that matter based on how many we want? And also, do we want the fence to divide them or what?
Yeah, so with that original cost, our intent was to put a couple new surface courts on that rink. And when we met with the contractor out there, he actually recommended against it. And he's the one that brought up the idea that we could just paint the concrete itself. So when we looked at that option, we're looking at, he estimated about $25,000 for a new court. Here, we're looking at $5,000 for the paint and a couple $100 for the nets. The fencing is a little larger because we could do more courts. So if we wanted to do all 6, like I said, it would be about 30, I think it was 35,000 for the fencing. But if we wanted to go back to the original 4, we're dropping down a couple grand to save on fencing. So a lot of the cost that we're going to save is us doing it in-house when our guys are billing their hours that they bill normally to other projects.
But the original estimate you gave us was what? If we had done it outside, could you refresh our memory on that, please?
It was $65,000 for 4 courts.
Right.
Yes.
And if my math is correct, Matt, it looks like it's about $41,200 for 6 courts now doing it this way. Does that seem about right?
Roughly, yes.
With fencing though, right? Is that with fencing?
Yes.
Is there really a need for fencing?
The group that is asking for these really think so. At least, at very least, in between each court, so balls aren't going from court to court. And then surrounding, it would just keep the balls in play rather than going in the grass. But again, that's your guys' call. If you guys think we need fencing, that would save us a lot more money if we didn't surround the entire complex with fence.
I think there's an argument to be made that, let's get the courts in place and see what the utilization is and how much they are used, as well as, how much maintenance and upkeep are related to them. And then, if we want to run fence between them, that's great and when we should. But I think, if you build it and they come, then you start to continually invest in them. At first, I would be up for just putting the paint in, putting the right nets up, making them nice, but some of that seems like a bit of a luxury.
Okay.
I agree. I think you need to see how much traffic and how much is being used first before we dump all the money into it, per se. So
what if you put fencing around all 6 courts, but not in between the courts? I mean, I think that helps keep some potential vandalism down.
Well, the fence that we were looking at is only 6-foot fence, and they would be gates that weren't locked overnight. So I think if anyone's going to want to vandalize it, I think they're going to get in either way.
I guess I'm not a pickleball player, but I've watched people play before, and I've always watched them on indoor courts. And without fencing, somebody misses a serve, you could be running 50 yards to get your ball after it goes off the court.
I just Googled ball court images, and the outside ones, I'm not finding one single one with fencing in between. Now, they look like they have fencing at the ends, a lot of them, but not in between courts. So I don't remember which one of us said around the outside, if that was you, Commissioner Strayer, or not. But it seems like doing a fence on the outside, not the inside, looks like to be common practice.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. If you don't have some sort of fencing around there, the ball goes off the court. It could be running into the street. It could be running into the street that runs through the park. So you have to keep the ball contained somehow.
Yeah, because there's a stream back behind there, and then there's also the beach sand volleyball courts there too. So we want to make sure that they're not.
I don't think you hit a pickleball that hard.
I don't know.
It's a flat wooden paddle and a wiffle ball.
I hit it that hard. My overhand's really good.
Yeah, I bet it is, just like your tennis. But
Yeah.
Matt, do you have any idea how much that substantially reduces the cost if we don't put the fence in between and we just do the perimeter, like by like square footage, maybe even of that fence, like how much that reduces it?
Give me about 10 seconds.
Okay,
Even the college at AC, that there's no fencing in between the tennis courts. Like it's on the outside.
Mhm.
I mean,
yep.
So if we did not put it in the middle, it reduces it by about $10,000.
there you go.
I'm
And
in favor.
again, like I think Brad mentioned, we can always go back to it if it becomes an issue later on.
Right. I like
So
the idea.
now we're looking at maybe if we did the perimeter fencing, the paint and all the nets, so now we're looking at about a 31 too. It's half of what we originally thought,
Mhm.
a little less than half.
And would you guys be in support of putting all 6 in or starting with less and building more later?
I would do all 6. If we have the space, I think and it's not going to cost that much, do them all now.
I'm in support of the 6 as well, if we're doing it now.
I would be in favor of 6 also.
Yep.
Yes, I would as well. I just had one question, Matt. Would there be any freeze thaw issues on the court with the paint and whatnot?
No, you're gonna get a little cracking here and there with the paint, but that's probably normal wear and tear. I think this is kind of a better option than resurfacing that concrete surface because, as the mayor mentioned, there is puddling on that surface, and if we resurfaced it with an asphalt, there would be water built up underneath, which would allow the asphalt to freeze thaw and crack and pop. So I don't see too many issues with this, but good question.
that concrete's been in place for what, 30 years with zero maintenance on it?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's probably the most stable and sturdy concrete in town. So with that in mind, I mean, it's not as if we're going to be removing snow or anything. This is pretty straightforward. Paint and nets.
I don't think it'll be an issue either, Commissioner Watson, but Murphy's Law will kick in sure as hell.
Blame it on you.
Yeah.
Be like Gordon's over at the splash pad. Go talk to him.
I take it all.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else on that, I will move on to the splash pad. We met with a representative from Ventura out on site, and she thinks it's a great site. We would have to get water to it. We would probably ask to see if Will's crew can get us a water line into the park. If not, we would have to contract it out. I don't have a cost on that yet. But over time, well, I guess each year, if we put this water into the sanitary, we would be looking at $25,000 a year just for water and sewer cost on this pad. And I know that wasn't exactly something I was thinking about and that high of a cost. But there will be roughly $25,000 in just water and sewer alone. We're looking at our options to see if we can pump it into the storm system. And if that's the case, we're only looking at about $12,000 a year for water cost. There's some concepts on here that Michelle put on for me. This is a splash pad that Mylan is putting in later this year. This concept cost roughly $180,000. I believe our budget was 130 to 150. So this is a little bit more than what we'd be able to do. And I also sent over a couple preset packages that could kind of save us some cost because there will be minimal engineering work needed. If Michelle can pull that up, thank you. So these are some of the options that would fall kind of within our budget. These would be AquaSmart. It's kind of a technology that's been out for, I think she said, about 5 years. They don't require electricity. They're solar powered, and they run for a couple minutes at a time, and then you have to go hit the button again, and it runs for another couple minutes. This will save us on water cost for sure, so it's not running all day, and there will be less cost for electricity. So these package prices, that last picture is pickleball courts. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Nice.
So these packages cost about $50,000 for the entire package, plus the installation would get us closer to the 150 that we mentioned. So that's where we're at so far. There's also the option of creating our own splash pad and water features. I do have a couple prices on that, but it seems that this might be one of the better ways to go with the preset option in order to get more bang for a buck, because there's not going to be any engineering work required for a preset option. We can certainly look at that. Yeah.
There was a group, the Adrian, the All About Adrian Coalition. They were already looking because they were trying to get a grant, and D'Angelo Boone was working on that. And they actually had met in because D'Angelo did meet with Ventura. I had set it up for him to meet with them. And then he got quite a few different layouts, I guess you could say. And he presented that to that coalition, and they actually had a very long discussion. I do believe Commissioner Gauss was there. I could not attend that meeting. And I don't know what they ended up saying, what they thought was best, but I know they were staying pretty low on the end of, they didn't want it high tech. They wanted it as easy as possible and as economical as possible, but yet something that could be used. And I haven't actually seen it. And I asked D'Angelo today to get it to me, and he was going to try before 4 o'clock, but I didn't receive it by the time of our meeting tonight. But I can send that your way. I don't know how expensive that one was. I don't know anything. I don't even know what it looks like because I was not at their meeting. I usually go to all theirs, and I couldn't attend that meeting. So they brought that up yesterday at the meeting because we did have a coalition meeting yesterday. And they knew it was being talked about tonight. So it maybe, I know it was a little smaller scale than the Mylan one for sure. I think they just thought that there wouldn't be, that's back when they were looking at a grant and everything. And I think they knew they wouldn't have possibly those funds to go that big, but I can get that to you and the commission once I get it from them to at least see, and you can let us know. I think the costs were on it. I think Jennifer from Ventura did cost out on all of the different layouts and gave them many options. But Commissioner Gauss, I think you were there. You might be able to speak to that.
Well, for the record, Commissioner Gauss was not there.
Oh,
sorry. I can't help you with that. Matt, I like what you presented here, and I agree that a pre-designed package probably is going to make the most sense. Without looking at all the numbers, it just seemed to me, I wonder. Well, I guess what I ask is, when we close it for the winter, let's say, I don't know what months we'd be talking about doing this, but for argument's sake, May 1 to September 30th or whatever. Is there some kind of winterizing that we have to go through? Is it kind of like an irrigation system in my yard where you got to blow all the water out of the system and to keep the pipes from bursting? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten too far into maintenance yet, but that would be one of the first steps, one of the most necessary steps to do is to blow all the lines out prior to everything freezing. But other than just the normal cleaning, I haven't really dove into the maintenance of the mechanical system itself yet either. So I think she said usually a solenoid goes out every couple years, and that's a couple $100 that we'd have to replace. But she said usually these newer systems are quite maintenance free as far as repairs. You do have to, of course, go out there and clean and scrub the scrub the concrete and whatnot. But they hopefully they should be pretty well maintenance free. And at the end of the season, we go over there and blow the lines out, and we're good to go until next year. So.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you going out and getting the information you've gathered so far. So we've got something more to look at. Disappointed, and it's nobody's fault, just disappointed that we can't get it, started and going this year so we could use some of this year's money to do it. But, it is what it is. So we'll have something to look at down the road. Thank you.
And Matt, I have a question too, on these water costs that, you and Will were looking at water and sewer, like how many days were you going off of? Because like I was looking and I was thinking, maybe it's Memorial Day to Labor Day, and that's a little over 100 days because I was counting that out and trying to figure out what that water usage could be. So I'm just curious what you went off of for those figures.
I think that's exactly what we did. It's about $250 a day to operate. So I think we used probably those exact dates are June 1st to end of September or whatnot, but roughly that time frame.
Was recycling the water cause maintenance issues? Possibly. I mean, I know it will lessen the cost, but would it cause any maintenance issues?
We were actually not planning to recycle the water. That actually raised the cost because we have to put a recirculating system in, and that costs like $100,000 alone.
Oh, okay.
So it would be a one-time touch. As soon as it hits the ground, it's going into either the storm or the sanitary system from that point.
Okay.
I like the idea of not having it continuously run. I mean, that just doesn't make sense, just to waste water when it's not being used. I mean, that's number one. Number two, it doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal splash pads. It's just something to get the kids over there in the neighborhoods, keep them cool, something they can enjoy. And so I appreciate the work, Matt, and it just makes sense to go with something that's already pre-done in another community, so we don't have to, so we can save on that cost. But I appreciate the work you did, Matt, getting this stuff to us, and I'm all hands on deck with this and want to get it moving. So that's just me though.
Matt, I have a quick question. You
Sure.
said it would be $250 a day to operate. Is that the cost if we were running the water all the time, or is that the solar cost?
No, so that would be the cost of running the water all the time.
So if we
So
had
if
the
we're doing
solar
this
cost-
AquaSmart system, it'll be much less than that.
Okay,
That was worst case scenario.
okay.
Do you guys have a preference between, I only showed you guys those 3 packages. Is there a preference that you guys would like me to proceed with, or kind of just follow that same direction with any AquaSmart package?
I think-
I'm on their website, and I don't know what, the ones that you're showing are kind of tiny, so I just went to their website.
Sorry.
I know my children, when we go to like the bucket that fills up and dumps over, and it looks like there's only one package that includes that. I don't know, that would just, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't really understand the silver things with all the water coming out of them, the silver balls. Do they run through them? I don't know.
Mary, I will mention, I also looked into getting a bucket if we were to make this ourselves, design it ourselves. And that bucket option is $36,000 alone. So-
And it's a lot more water too. I remember I remember Jennifer telling us that, Matt.
Yeah,
Right.
so I would try to stay away from one of those options that really kind of takes away
Okay.
from all the other features that we can have.
Don't look at package E.
Matt, are you okay when I get that from D'Angelo and like sending that over? Because I know it came from
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Yep,
So-
absolutely. And
Okay.
I've been working with Jennifer a lot lately, so I'll run through the details with her and
Because I don't know,
hopefully
so I
update.
can't give you any help on it because I didn't know. I wasn't there, so.
One of the things I really like about this company and their website is that the design has a child in a wheelchair. So it's accessible to children. So it's really great that they have that incorporated into their designs.
I'm not big on, I don't really care. I just want a splash pad. I mean, I'm not a designer. I don't, as long as something, like I said, as long as the kids can get wet and when, when it's hot out, I don't really care. But I want something nice, good quality, but also be smart about it when it comes to the waste of water. I mean, that's just silly to have it running the whole time if kids aren't using it, so.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the on-off option pretty well. I'm just going to say because of my granddaughter, she really likes elephants, so don't lose the elephant.
Yeah, that was expensive too.
I was say, where is there an
You
elephant?
can lose the elephant.
I'm not seeing an elephant.
That was in one of them that Matt showed us.
Yeah, okay. Well, Matt, if you're interested and want some advice, I would be willing to work with you on this project to determine a package if you would like that.
Okay, absolutely. Is there anyone else that would like to be more involved and we can come up with a plan?
I'd be happy to participate.
I would as well, Matt.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, as I get some more information, I will reach out to you three and we will we'll get a package that fits us.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on that topic? I saw a text in the chat from Mr. Ramos who had some information on the A3 Coalition's position on the matter. Are you interested in hearing that at this point or wait till public comment? Commissioners?
I mean, I feel like we're not making a decision and it's a pre-meeting. We could wait till public comment because I'd like us to be able to see it too. And I know D'Angelo actually has the exact cost and what it looks like, the layout as well. So I think it could wait to public comment, and that way, since we're not making a decision, and we definitely will weigh in on that when we're meeting with Matt, that smaller group.
Okay, all right, we'll wait till public comment. Number 4 on our pre-meeting agenda is an update on the Community Development Director position. Mayor, I think you asked that this item be included on the pre-meeting agenda. I mean, I will tell you that the update is we haven't had any new applications since last we spoke, since we refreshed the posting earlier this month. I don't believe any have come in. I think Heather is on the pre-meeting tonight. She is, and she can kind of speak also about the general problems we have with all of our higher level job postings, but this one is no different. And you know, I've been trying to rack my brain for other ways to address this. You know, my inclination is not to give up on it. I mean, the structure is in fact, you know, established in the city code for the community development department. And I mean, I obviously I did that job and I've done that job elsewhere. And, you know, it makes sense to me, that structure. The fact that we're having difficulty identifying candidates is not unique to this position. We have that difficulty at the department head level generally, and with many positions, trying to fill them. And you know, the question is, what can we, maybe the question is, what can we do in the interim to try to alleviate some of the time of mine it takes away from being administrator. And I would say in that regard, you know, the things that take the most time are probably the planning related things. And that's not just because I'm a planner and that's what I like to do. Though, you know, that's the area where we have the least amount of experience at the staff level. Obviously, we eliminated in-house economic development some time back. So that's not here at all. And someone needs to pick up that slack. You know, so that's what I find takes the most of my time. And, you know, ideas for plugging something in there, you know, it might be a consultant on a you know, a limited basis to add some expertise to the department, answer questions that I would otherwise be answering. Or, you know, it occurred to me, maybe there's a community leader who, you know, would be interested in doing it, not as a full-time job, but on an interim basis while we continue our search. I don't want to gobble up the discussion here. It wasn't really my item to add to the pre-meeting, so I'll let you all take the discussion where you want it to go. But that's kind of the update from my perspective so far.
Heather, what does it look like? How do we market our community jobs, all jobs? How do we market that out?
Well, depending on the position, we kind of just decide where it is that we think we're going to get the best interest. For higher level positions, it's, you know, we get the most interest from obviously the MML. We get a lot of interest from there. And then depending on the position, if there's specialty websites, so if it's a, you know, finance, we would look for a professional finance site, or in this case, we did some advertising with, help me out, Greg, Michigan Planners.
Planning.
Right, yep.
And then the second round, we also added an economic development group, and I don't recall the acronym for that one, but
Right.
We got maybe one candidate out of that, and that cost quite a bit of money, as I recall, to advertise on that site as well.
Yeah, they all cost quite a bit of money, and so we're choosy a little bit about where we advertise. And we also, from past experience, know that certain sources, certain places that we can advertise don't really culminate in any sort of quality applicants. So we kind of just pick and choose where we advertise a position based on you know, what's worked for us previously. So and then we come up with what we think is a good job posting. And beyond that, you know, we don't do a ton of marketing, if that's what you you know, are asking about. We really just put together what we think is a really comprehensive job posting, which and obviously we give our contact information. So there are applicants that do reach out and ask for additional information about the city, which we of course provide.
Or is it, I mean, I just have friends that have businesses and are struggling to find employees to all different levels of employees.
Yeah.
Are we struggling all the way around? Is it this position? Is it just the timing right now? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I do think the timing right now is not helping us for whatever reason. You know, you would think after what we've been through in the last year that there would just be loads of people looking for jobs. And I don't know if it has something to do with, you know, extra unemployment money and all of that. But right now is just, we're really struggling more, even more so than we were before pre-pandemic, I'll call it, with getting applicants. So it's been very frustrating. And yeah, for even before the pandemic, for the last couple of years, we've struggled all the way around. You know, police and fire are a great example. We've had a really tough time filling those positions. They've had some vacancies that have been open for a long period of time in some cases, because we just aren't getting people to apply. Utilities has had multiple job openings where we used to get, hundreds of applications, and now we're getting 3. So it's really, even entry level jobs where there aren't tons and tons of qualifications required to apply, we're still getting a very limited number of applicants. So it's been particularly challenging to find folks that kind of match what we're looking for from a level of experience and, years of experience.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I would like to continue looking for someone. I don't want this to go away. I want this position to stay. I've hired 2 people in the last couple of months for my staff here. And I think one of the things that we had to think outside the box on who to interview. Not everyone's going to come in and have university level experience or have been an advisor. So it's who is trainable, who has some experience, who is trainable. It's a little more challenging because it is a director's position. So we do probably need to have someone with experience, but I don't know, maybe we should take a look at the posting again and see how much experience we're recommending or asking for, and rewording it, or taking a look at someone who doesn't have experience yet, but maybe possibly would be great for that job. And throwing it out there. I could be talking way offhand. I don't know, but it is very challenging hiring right now. We have several positions open at Sienna, and it's, yeah. Yep. Very challenging.
We have it open until filled, I believe.
We do.
So when?
No,
Open until filled, I believe is the way we post it, but then they expire after a time, so we have to repost them.
okay, so do you know when it's gonna expire?
I just refreshed the ad. They're good for roughly 30 days. So on the Michigan Municipal League, and also on the planner's website, and the other professional organization, they're good for 30 days.
Well, hearing what everybody else has to say about it being very difficult to hire presently, and it seems like Greg is not wanting to jump ship at this point. I think we should ride it out for a little while and see what happens, and see if the right person comes along before we make a rash decision and then regret it 6 months down the road.
But like, we gotta have a timeline. We have to find out when we're gonna pull the plug on it. I mean, it's a $250,000 position with benefits and all that. So we as a commission have to understand that there's gotta be a timeline of, all right, at this date, we're pulling the plug, we're gonna restructure, and we're gonna figure this out. I mean, with Greg's enormous planning experience, he's saying that's the key component of the job. I mean, I think there's ways to structure. I mean, again, it's not my decision to make, but it is our decision collectively as the 7 members of the commission to understand the organizational chart. And if we want to change that, we have the ability legislatively to do that. So we need to come up with a plan on when we pull the plug on it. And that's going to be Greg's job to figure out what's the best way to restructure that. But he's got things he has things that he wants to do that he can't do currently because he's kind of babysitting that department, which rightfully so, because that's his baby. I mean, that's his wheelhouse. So with our blight initiative, with funds potentially being allocated to that, we need to figure out when we can push this agenda and get started. And that department needs leadership. It does. So I'm just looking for a timeline of when we pull the plug and say, all right, now it's time to, it's already in the budget, but it can always be amended to move money around. But we need to come up with a plan on when we're going to pull the plug on or not. because you're not gonna get somebody to move laterally $80,000. I'm not moving from Brighton to come to Adrian for the same pay. I'm just not. I just would not do that. So Greg's email to us, one of the weekly reports, he's spot on. It's like, it's such a high rate of pay and benefit package that you got to either hire internally or get somebody that's up and coming, like you said, Commissioner Roberts, or train them. But I'm a big believer in you can't train leadership. I mean, you have it or you don't. In some cases you can, I guess, but I just want to date on, all right, May 1st or June 1st, it's over. And we're going to restructure this thing or whatever we have. So that's what I'm looking for, because we need to get moving on this other stuff we got going on and we want to attack it too. So.
Well, Commissioner Halt, I agree. We do have to have some sort of deadline, but I guess what I'm saying is, given the state of whether it be our economy and the job workforce and things now, maybe we just need to be a little bit more patient than maybe we would have been 2 years ago. But yeah, I agree. There needs to be, at some point, there needs to be a deadline. And, but I just
In
think
this position, though, I don't feel that it's a supplemental unemployment issue. I mean, it's $300 extra a week. Max is $362 or whatever it is. We're offering $80,000 plus benefits at the high end of that. So in my world, in my business, we're struggling like crazy, because again, you can sit at home and make more money than you can working, but not with that particular department head position. So I just think it's an issue where people aren't moving laterally. All right, well, you want to move up, then and so be it. But it's a lateral move with that much salary and benefits, in most cases.
It may be just more, maybe a little more than just employment. People may be afraid to move right now just because of the current pandemic. So there may be a little more fear in moving right now. But with the spikes, it doesn't look like it's going to go away in the next 2 months either. So I agree with Lad on being patient, because it may not be just that, but I don't know if there's another way. That Greg's got a lot on his plate, but if there's another way to have some of it taken over somewhere else right now. We've talked about refocusing some positions. I don't know. I hate to get rid of something I feel is pretty important too.
And my thought is, if it takes a long time, like, let's keep looking and keep trying to get that community development director, but maybe we need to restructure for right now and move some things around and get this, and it might be temporary. It might, but it could end up being a year. It's been almost a year that Greg's been doing both since, because he's been interim since July. So he has been basically doing it. But maybe it might take a while, but let's get it like, we can't leave that for a year. Like, what if it does take that long? Like, that's where I guess I'm coming from on this, is just that I think we need to look at that interim type thought process, but maybe not an interim. Maybe it is an interim person, but maybe what it is just redelegating, refocusing, and changing some things and making it work. I don't mean permanently, but my thought is just to get so that, Greg can focus on being city administrator, not be worried about that. And so that things are being done that are supposed to be being done, by maybe this setup, and it gets us through this period.
I mean, that is something I used to do as a consultant. I had interim gigs at different, it was City Westland, West Bloomfield Township, for 6 month stretches where I would come in. I'd work there in their office three days a week, and then in my firm's office the rest of the time. But and that's you can find somebody like that very easily. It's expensive, however. You're paying as much. They were paying as much for me as they would have paid for their full-time person, but they weren't getting me full-time. However, you can bring it in on short notice and get rid of it when you want to get rid of it. That something like that would be an option. It's just not a super affordable option. There's a price tag to it. Now, that said, at this point, in this particular fiscal year, we saved pretty much the entire cost of the community development director's salary, which was in the budget. So there's money there to do that if we wanted to go that route.
My concern is that, yeah, we saved the money, but we've got things that aren't getting accomplished. And that's no fault of yours, Greg. You're being asked to do 2 jobs, and you're only one person. And I think we had another commissioner a few meetings ago that said exactly that you got 2 full-time jobs. I have on almost a daily basis, because we've started to be a little bit public about our blight remediation initiative, and people want to know, you said you're going to do it. When are you going to do it? And I realize that code enforcement's out there. I understand that the rental inspections are being taken care of, but are they, are we making the push that we really need to be making to do that and other things? I don't know who's interfacing with Lenawee now on economic development and how much of that's happening, and is there enough or should there be more? I just throw that out as things for us all to think about, of how long we're gonna, how long that timeline is going to be before we're going to make some kind of change, temporary or otherwise. I just think we need to consider that.
Is there any other discussion on that point? I mean, I will obviously keep working on it and keep thinking about other options that we might pursue, and I may explore some in a more concrete way, along those lines of something for the interim, while we keep looking for the permanent solution, and maybe be able to bring back to you, maybe not next time since it's next Monday, but a more concrete path forward for filling it in the interim and continuing to pursue it over the long term.
I guess for me, it's like, maybe it's a little selfish, but I'm not really concerned with the zoning and planning, because we got a guy that's running the city, that's his wheelhouse. So that nothing's gonna, no matter who you hire, Greg, nothing's gonna get past your desk when it comes to that department, that you're not dotting I's and crossing T's before it comes to us or the planning commission. So I'm worried about the other stuff. I'm worried about the code enforcement, the blight remediation, what that agenda is. Zoning and planning, I know it's gonna be taken care of, because that's what you do. So that's what I'm focused more on, is pushing that agenda more so. And again, it's not fair to you than me to think that way, but I know how you are. You get to know you a little bit more over the last couple months. You're not gonna let anything cross your desk unless you check off on it. I mean, that's no matter who you're gonna hire. So yeah, I just look at it, how we can restructure it, and just go that way if nothing bites. So.
Okay. Anything else on that right now? Okay. Next, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about, and give me a chance to talk about things happening around the Kiwanis Trail. I don't know if Dusty's on the meeting right now or not. Let's see. Do not see him. If you're here, Dusty, say hi, but I don't see you. So a few things. I know Commissioner Strayer wanted to talk about the east side extension, and the fact that that's looking like it's going to be a bit over budget. I wanted to alert you to the fact that the Tecumseh connection is still struggling to raise the funds that they need to convince the county to go ahead and bid that out. That has now at this point been fully designed, and the design has been approved by the DNR. I don't know that the county has authorized it to go out for bids yet. I don't believe they have. And last I knew, they were about $250,000 short on their fundraising goals for that. I mean, fully confident that they're going to be able to achieve that. But again, we want to bid it this year. We want to be able to construct it this year because there is a grant there that needs to be used or lost, I believe. And so that process continues. We're not, I mean, the city is not so much involved in that process. It's others leading that charge, Kiwanis and the city of Tecumseh, more so than anyone else. But it is still in play. And that's obviously an important connection that makes the trail go somewhere. And I can envision that being beneficial to both cities in terms of people, bike tourists and so on, coming back and forth between our entertainment establishments and other places in the cities as a destination at the other end of the trail. And then the other thing that's going on, I understand there was a meeting this morning. I was not at that meeting about the potential connector under M52, where the east side extension is being constructed, and what that might look like, and what those funds are going to be. That did come up at the Trail Authority had a special meeting last week, and I updated you in my weekly report on that. That did come up there. The townships and the other members other than me were unclear how that fit into the Trail Authority's plans. I think it was scary to them, the idea that they would be, because at the end of the day, the maintenance responsibilities for the trail are supposed to now fall in the future on the authority. And I think it was unnerving to think of such an expensive asset. The maintenance is such an expensive asset, but they didn't, nobody expressed a negative view. I wouldn't say. They just didn't feel like they had the information they needed on the project at that point to take a position on it. So just had to put that out there for discussion on any of those points or none of them, as you commissioners and mayor see fit.
Well, I guess I'll jump in here. I was on the meeting this morning with Commissioner Strayer and Commissioner Gauss from the city. It was a really good discussion for about an hour. Talked to a lobbyist from Lansing that's working with the private group to kind of get this project moving. And I think our comments from the commission standpoint is that this is just another way that we're committing to the east side of our city and improving the quality of life on that particular side of the city. So the only thing the city, when it comes to the authority, is like, they may be a little apprehensive about the maintenance costs, but in my opinion, it's like, welcome to the party. And so we've been doing it by ourselves for X amount of years, and I'm glad we have that collaboration agreement. But now it's like the city, half of the city of Adrian is bigger than most of the other communities in the county. So we need to have access over there. And the only thing the lobbyist said that we needed is because Lansing, when it comes to grant funding and such things like that, is that they will always find a reason to say no. So organization on the back end is the most important component of this, whether it be local, city, county, first, political buy-in. But from an organizational standpoint, the public-private partnership is just one of those things where, as a commission, that we have to look at, keep that that relationship, so we can get help with some of these projects. So it was a good meeting. Lad and I were talking back and forth, and we told Lad that, or Lad and I told some of the private members that we were going to get with you, Greg, and then you can get with the lobbyists to figure out if the other commission members support it. Again, we don't even know if they're going to support that extension, all the way over. We would need a resolution locally just in support. And so we were going to connect you with some of the private members, and then they would get you connected with the lobbyist in Lansing that's working on this project for state funding. Representative Colley was on the call. A representative for Senator Zorn was on the call, but they are more than happy to, I think Brana's positioned very well in Lansing when it comes from a lobbying standpoint. She has a lot of support across the aisle, so they think it's a project that could be funded this fiscal year. So, but they're going to need support locally. Just a resolution saying that if the commission supports it. So that's, and I didn't know this. I forgot this on the pre-meeting agenda because I told Lad, I go, well, we need to get Greg connected with the right people so we can get on the next meeting and then talk about it and then vote on it in the first meeting in May. So again, it's the organization on the back end is really, really good. A lot of community, a lot of business leaders that are in support, that's going to support it privately when it comes to funds. So that's pretty much, Lad, did I miss anything, or Gordon?
Well, I was just going to say that, the tunnel project, we've been talking about it. Alan and I have been with the private sector for a couple of years now. But in reality, we're still at the very beginning stages of this project. I mean, as far as engineering, they are just starting to do some soil samples and visit the site. I mean, it's really in the very beginning stages. And so the trail authority should be aware of that, but also the fact that the reason we're trying to move on it now is because we're trying to get this into the Michigan State's budget, this upcoming budget. And so we need to kind of be acting right now and getting a lot of guidance from our representatives. And if we don't act on it now, we probably lose a year. So there's a number of things that have to come into place. And the lobbyists 2 or 3 times today warned us that, like Alan said, we have to be super organized. We have to be committed as a group, because between Lansing and between MDOT, they're going to be looking for reasons to tell us no. There will be some of us going to the west side of the state in a couple of weeks to look at 3 tunnels over there that have been very successful tunnels. And one of the companies who is partnering with Manic Smith over here on the tunnel project has been involved in at least 2 of those projects on the west side of the state. So we have good people involved, but really from an engineering standpoint, they're just at the very beginning of this process. But from the monetary part of it, we need to be acting now, or else we lose a lot of time. So like Alan said, it was a very good meeting, very informative to us. I mean, we didn't have a lot to offer today. It was more listen and learn type of thing. And I think that within the next couple of weeks, we'll probably have some additional information. But the lobbyist did stress that, like Alan was saying, that we needed to pass some sort of resolution. We didn't have to commit anything other than support. It's not like this is something that we're adding to our budget or anything like that. It's just saying that, yes, we think this is a good idea.
And we actually adopted a resolution, Lad, right, June of 2019 for the TAP grant, which we did not get funded in that cycle. But again, like Lad said, it's more of a show of support without any commitment. So all of our ducks would be in the row when Brana brings this to her committee or her caucus to, and see if she can get funded for it. So really good meeting. Gordon, you want to add anything to that, or?
No, I think you guys have pretty much said it all. Brana, she was pleased to see local representation, city officials at the meeting this morning, because she said that's going to be very important when she's in Lansing trying to sell this product. Everybody needs to know that the city is behind this and really wants it to happen. So I think that was an important takeaway from that. And this point about having our ducks in a row and making sure we know everything there is to know about what the project's going to entail and the costs associated with it, because clearly MDOT and the other elected officials in Lansing are going to do everything they can to shoot holes in what it is we're trying to do, and catch us in errors or whatever, because if they can keep us from getting money, that's more money for them to have available to for their uses. So anything they can do to damage our the look of our project, we're just not going to let that happen. That's what it boils down to.
So I have a question about the other 3 tunnels. Well, obviously MDOT approved them. Was there funding? Was there grant funding from the state, from the federal for all 3 of those projects?
Yes, it was the one in Walker, Michigan, right? The state kicked in $2 million for that tunnel. And again, Mary, because the question's first of all, we gotta know what the other 4 members of the commission think. I mean, Lad and I and Gordon were in these meetings, but you guys are a part of this, just as much as anybody else. So it was a public-private partnership with also state grant funding. So it's I'm in the belief that we have these private citizens that want to invest in our city when it comes to quality of life. Let's leverage it. Let's connect together and let's get some stuff done. But a lot of questions we have. But the one in Walker was I think they got $1.9 million from the state for that tunnel.
There's also one in Greenville, which was about 30 minutes away. So I think it was a similar situation. And then there's a very small tunnel. Sounds more like it's a private tunnel for the Myers headquarters that they wanted to show off. And I don't know how that one was funded, actually.
But in these meetings, lots of safety questions, concerns where, we're taking the light, and it was really good dialogue back and forth. And so once we get down the road, I think that we can bring some of those members in here and they can kind of help alleviate some of the concerns that the 3 commission, the mayor that was not in these meetings they can help answer those questions for you guys. So
I know a big fear of mine. I mean, I was very excited for the east side expansion of the Kiwanis Trail, but it has, I won't lie, it has made me very nervous about especially children crossing that intersection, because it's very scary there. And so I'm very on board with any alternative to keep children, but even adults, anybody from crossing, because we were standing there the day that we were looking at it almost a year ago, and we're standing there, and I mean, it was just nonstop traffic, and I was thinking, how's anybody ever going to be able to cross here? I was thinking that while standing there when we were looking at where the trail was going to be. So that has been definitely a fear of mine. I'm not going to lie, it's a fear of mine. I've ridden the trail with my children and crossed M52 up there by Johnson Sporting Goods, and that's scary as well. But the traffic seems to be more spread out up there. So I felt like there was more time to get across when you're crossing there, but it just seems so congested. I've just had that fear, and any alternative, and we can get the funding, I'm all for that, because I am nervous about that.
I guess to speak to that, when we first started talking about this 2 years ago or whenever it was, I thought, if my memory serves me correct, that MDOT did a report, or someone did a report saying, well, essentially they walked to the corner, cross, and walked back, because it's not very far to walk to the corner of Beecher. And so that's why to me, that's why it didn't move forward the last time, because there was an option for people to cross safely. And so I guess I would like to hear what's different now. If the report from 2 years ago says they walk to the corner and that's a safe spot to cross, why is it different now?
I sort of vaguely remember that report. I don't remember it very well. I think you could call that an option, but I don't know if it's a good option, because even if you cross at that spot, it's not just a situation of cars going north and south. You have people that are turning from Beecher Street to go south onto 52. So there's, I guess my point is you've got traffic coming from different directions. And so it doesn't matter if you're a young person or who you are, it's very hard to watch and just cross with the light. I personally wouldn't be real comfortable with it. Yes, it's an option. You can cross there, but is it a good option? I don't think so.
I see Chief Emmerich is on the call. And Chief, I seem to remember some kind of summary about where the majority or where many accidents within the city limits occur. And it seems to me that it was a South Main Beecher intersection that was pretty dangerous. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, Commissioner, good memory on that. I think we were talking about the top 10 intersections for the city, and that's definitely in there.
You know, kind of like what Ladd said, it's like I witnessed the little girl on Maumee and Scott. I witnessed it live, her getting hit, that little girl on the bike, you know, and I mean, people just don't pay attention. They're on their phones. They're, you know, yeah. I just not. It is an option, I think, but I wouldn't necessarily feel that comfortable with it.
I don't think it would promote having youth use that trail at all, which I think is something that we want. So regardless of whether it's at the stoplight there or not, I think I wouldn't want kids crossing there.
It's something that I mean, it is getting really close to our time and we need to have public comment as well. Is this something we want, that we need continued discussion, you know, next pre-meeting on as well? Or do you feel good with what you've heard so far, the three of you that have been meeting with the group?
It sounds like all we need is a vote of support for the project, and I'm in favor of it. And I haven't heard anybody say not, because it's a safety matter that we are all seeing it as. And so, I mean, just a vote of support is as simple as we need it, right, Alan?
Yes, and a vote of support doesn't commit the city for anything. It just shows that, hey, that we're and shame on me for not remembering this on the pre-meetings. I told the lobbyists that we'll get with Greg and this and that, and we'll talk about it next meeting, and then we'll, because our process is you talk about it, then you vote the next meeting. So it's just a show of support, and then like I said, there's no commitment in the city saying that. I know Marty was almost going to pull the trigger on putting it on the agenda for them tomorrow, or whatever the county meetings are, but he thought that was a little bit too quick for them for the cities, but he didn't have it on the agenda initially for the county commissioners to vote on. So yeah, just a letter of support. That's all we need. So
yeah, the lobbyist said, you know, May was fine. I mean, he wasn't in any huge hurry for it, but he was just trying to get his ducks in a row.
Right.
He also said he helped you write it. So I mean, write the resolution. It's pretty easy one, it sounds like.
And that's what he said, well, we'll get Greg. We'll connect you with Greg. He can help you do that. So
you'd like to have that on your first meeting in May, that resolution?
That'd be great.
Yeah. All right, I can get with that fellow, and we can get something ready for your first meeting in May. That's no problem.
sounds good.
Okay. We did have another item, but given the time, Mary, do you want to proceed to public?
Yes. So yes, we'll have to discuss that next week, the other item that was on there. But at this time, it is now time for public comment. And just for the record, please state your name and address.
Ken Tokar, 110 South Locust. I did a quick audit of the Michigan Municipal League for some of the job postings on there. I guess I would encourage you to do the same. Little old lowly Blissfield, they have a whole big write-up for their position. So if Little Blissfield can put a whole big write-up, I'm sure that someone could put a write-up together for the city of Adrian to tell a little bit about the city than just the posting. The other thing, I think the posting is catered not to be applicant friendly. if there's two postings up there, one for Farmington Hills, Michigan. The pay ranges are the same, but you actually have to have less qualifications for the position in Farmington Hills. So Farmington Hills is probably a more a location where people would want to be than Adrian. So I really think that whoever wrote the posting needs to go revisit it and maybe do a better job with it. The other thing is on some of the commissioners, they made comments. So me going to college, my understanding was you went to college to learn, and getting a degree, even a general sciences degree or a BS, documented that you had the skill sets necessary to learn. A lot of people don't go into the same positions that they go to school for. So I definitely agree that there are other people out there who could fill that position. I mean, we just had Rick Snyder, you know, he was they called him a geek or a nerd, and he ran the state of Michigan. So I think that there's people out there. You just need to find someone and quit playing around. Thank you.
Hello, my name is D'Angelo Boone. My address is 223 South Scott Street, Adrian, Michigan. And I wanted to make a comment on the splash pad. I know there's some discussion earlier regarding it. And Mayor Heath, I apologize for getting the splash pad information to you late. But I wanted to just state that that there is a resident coalition, the A3 All About Adrian Resident Coalition, and we did discuss a design for the splash pad for Paris Park community, and we would want ask that the city would consider the design that we voted on. I did send that to Mary Heath, so she does have a copy of that now. The splash pad that the residents selected for their community. And I think that having a splash pad in Paris Park would be a great response to the city for the work that we've been doing in the Paris Park community and the work that the residents have been collectively, actively working to accomplish there. And that it will send a positive message to the residents there, and that there should be investment in that community. Many of the residents that I've worked with have been working diligently and consistently with the Resident Coalition, as well as Habitat for Humanity's Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative, and the local churches as well. So it's a community that is working to change its image and to really encourage residents from all aspects, from all areas of Adrian, to revisit the East Side and be a part of the change that we're pushing to take place there. So I think the splash pad in Paris Park will be a great response. I would ask again that the city really consider the design that the Resident Coalition voted on, and even invite you guys to the table to have a conversation with the Resident Coalition.
Joaquin Ramos, 422 South Winter. Of course, I put something in the chat. I just want to say that I echo everything that D'Angelo said.
Hearing no more public comment, may I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support Roberts.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Our pre-meeting is adjourned. Oh, there is somebody saying they have a comment, but we can't hear them for some reason. So hopefully we can get that fixed before our next meeting. We are going to take a 5-minute recess so that we can run to the bathroom if needed. And we will begin our regular meeting at 7:10. Greg, would you be willing to do the Zoom speech again, please, tonight, since we all are on Zoom? Thank you.
I am willing to do that. Good evening, everyone. I'm City Administrator Greg Elliott. It's 7 o'clock or 7:10, in fact, and I'd like to address a few things before Mayor Heath officially calls us to order. For much of the meeting, we asked that the participants, other than the commissioners and staff members, mute themselves to allow the commission to have their discussions and conduct their business. That will also help to minimize any background noise that may be disruptive. Opportunities for public comment will be offered at different points throughout the meeting. At those times, participants can unmute themselves and will have an opportunity to address the commission. The 3-minute rule will be in effect for public comment during the meeting. When it is time for public comment, please identify your name and address for the record prior to making any statement. Once we formally begin the meeting, the format and structure will be the same as it is in person, and we will work through the agenda items as usual. All commission rules and procedures remain in effect. We've talked in the past about Zoom bombing. This is where a virtual meeting is interrupted by people who fill the screen with objectionable content. This occurs during our meeting tonight. We will disconnect the meeting and restart after a few minutes. Attendees can reconnect via the same link. We'll also turn over the video of the meeting to law enforcement for investigation. Our agenda is available as a packet on our website at www.adriancity.com. Thank you all for participating, and Mayor Heath, I will turn it over to you.
I now call to order the Adrian City Commission special meeting for April 12th, 2021. If everyone would please rise for a moment and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Halt,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Watson,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Present.
all commission members present.
Resolution R21-039 is from the city attorney. It is a resolution to conduct regular business at a special meeting. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move we adopt the resolution. Help.
Port Strayer.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
May I get a motion to adopt the minutes of the March 15th, 2021 regular meeting?
Move to adopt the minutes, Roberts.
Support Castleberry.
I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Strayer,
yes,
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Hou.
Yes.
Minutes approved by unanimous vote.
May I get a motion to approve the minutes of the March 22nd, 2021 special meeting?
Move to approve the minutes of the March 22nd special meeting. Gauss?
support,
Support.
Strayer,
I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Strayer,
yes,
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Hou,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
minutes approved by unanimous vote.
May I get a motion to approve the minutes of the March 29th, 2021 special meeting?
Move to adopt the minutes or to approve the minutes. Roberts.
Castleberry.
I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Mr. Strayer,
yes,
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Hou,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
minutes approved by unanimous vote.
May I get a motion to pay the vouchers as presented, please?
Movie pay the vouchers as presented. Helt.
support,
Support.
Strayer,
I have a motion from Commissioner Halt. Ooh, it's echoing on my end. With a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Hou,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Strayer,
yes,
vouchers approved by unanimous vote.
At this time, I have a proclamation. It is in a reference to Arbor Day, and this was already sent on to the well, I don't actually know who it went to, but to the people for the Arbor Day Foundation. And we've actually just did the proclamation today, so I'm going to read it right now as part of our meeting. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil caused by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Adrian has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 44 years. And now therefore, I, Angela Sword Heath, Mayor of the City of Adrian, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 30th, 2021 is Arbor Day in the City of Adrian, and urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to endorse our city's community. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Moving on to communications. C1, finance. We have your revenue and expenditure report for February. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or questions? Before we move on to the regular agenda, I'm going to be asking for a motion to amend the agenda to strike resolution R21-051 from the agenda. That is the resolution from administration to approve an amendment to a purchase agreement with Objective Real Estate Holdings LLC. So I'm asking for a motion to amend the agenda to strike resolution R21-051. May I get a motion?
Move to strike the resolution from the agenda.
Support Watson.
And I would just like to ask, this was brought on right before the meeting, and I would just like to ask before we go to vote, I would like to ask our city administrator, Greg Elliott, the reasoning for them wanting to have it stricken, why they didn't want the amendment anymore.
They withdrew the proposed amendment. I forwarded on their email. It didn't really have any explanation associated with it, but I think they may have felt like causing some heartburn and with the commission, and didn't want to do that. So
Okay.
I don't want to put words in their mouth. They just withdrew it.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Watson to amend the agenda to strike resolution R21-051. Roll call, please. You're on mute.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes,
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes,
The motion to amend the agenda to strike R21-051 from the agenda is approved by unanimous vote.
On our regular agenda under ordinances, we have ordinance 21-004. It's the second reading and consideration of an ordinance to amend the City of Adrian zoning regulations to the extent of deleting 1893 West Maumee, 1881 West Maumee, 1853 West Maumee, 1801 West Maumee, and 1701 West Maumee from the B1 local business district and including the same in the B2 community business district. May I get a motion to adopt the ordinance?
move to adopt the ordinance. Gauss.
Support, Robert.
Are there any public comments?
Yes. Good evening, Fred Lucas. 7577 US Highway 12. Attorney, I'm speaking on behalf of my clients, Una Musharbash. They have the owners of the gas station at the corner of 223 and Sand Creek Highway. My concern with this particular motion on behalf of my clients is, number one, my understanding that the goal here is for the development of another gas station at that location. I don't know whether or not there's been any contact to the property owners whose property is being suggested for rezoning. I know that I have spoken to Mr. Dempsey, Dempsey Accounting. I know that they are opposed to this. They are concerned about the traffic. They're also concerned about the individuals coming to that site. There is, I understand, a residential development behind this, and they're concerned that their property will be used as a means of access from those properties to the proposed gas station. I am aware of the fact that it would still require a conditional use permit in order for for the gas station to occur. But my clients do not believe that this is the best use of this property and that it should remain in its present zoning classification. In addition to the fact that the zoning classification is appropriate, it is consistent with the master plan which the city presently has in place. Now, I do understand that the master plan is subject to revision and is being reviewed right now. But as of today's date, the master plan does not provide for that particular site to be developed in the manner which is being proposed. I think that it is, without having investigated how the neighboring property owners are concerned about this, I think that it would be ill-advised for the city to move forward with this without first at least investigating and inquiring of the other properties who did not request to have their properties rezoned, whether it is their desire to proceed forward in that fashion. I see I have 23 seconds left, so I'll give it back to you. Thank you very much. Hi, lad.
Hearing no more public comment, are there any commissioner comments?
I have one, Mayor. This is what we've been talking about for the last 3 months. We got a building that's been vacant, used for nothing. We have squatters, you name it. Who knows what the repair of that particular building is? We have a private investor that wants to come in and raise the property and put a feasible business on that property. Would there be so much uproar if a Chick-fil-A went there or a Texas Roadhouse went there? You want to talk about traffic? I think everybody in this meeting has been to a Chick-fil-A or a Texas Roadhouse. They're zoos. There are millions of people everywhere, right? So us even considering not supporting this, in my personal opinion, is foolish. I think this is a way that the city can take down a building that's been blighted for over a decade and repurpose that property. So that's where I'm at with it. It's not even a decision I thought about. I know the proprietor. I know what he has. Lots of businesses, all ran well, all ran efficient. It's a no-brainer for me.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted by unanimous vote.
Moving on to resolutions. Resolution R21-040 is from Finance. It is a resolution to approve the special assessment roll for delinquent rental registration, vacant property registration and inspection fees, parking assessments, improvements or abatements of public hazards on single lots in the city of Adrian, and other miscellaneous invoices, and to set a public hearing for May 3rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. to hear and consider objections. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, Roberts.
Support, Gauss.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Gauss. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-041 is from Finance. It is a resolution to approve the special assessment roll for delinquent water and sewer charges and to set a public hearing for May 3rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. to hear and consider objections. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Watson.
support Strayer,
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-042 is from Transportation. It is a resolution to approve a project authorization for federal operating assistance for the Adrian Dollar Ride and to authorize the mayor and/or city clerk to execute said project authorization. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Help.
Support Castleberry.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-043 is from administration. It is a resolution to approve an interlocal agreement between the city of Adrian and the county of Lenawee for reimbursement of expenses incurred by the city while providing medical personnel to work at mass COVID-19 vaccination clinics and programs run by Lenawee County. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Watson.
support Strayer,
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments?
I'd just like to say I appreciate the efforts being put forth by everybody for these vaccination clinics. People have noticed Adrian Fire and paramedics there, and they've said to me how well it's being run and how well our staff represent the city. So thank you to those that did step up to, and those that are continuing to step up to provide that very valuable service at a time like this.
I would like to echo Commissioner Watson's comments, and also I am on bi-weekly calls with the county health department and ProMedica and various entities like that. And they are really hoping, they've been pleading to the state that we get more vaccinations. So we're going to need more help. So I'm really putting that plea out there that we're going to need more help once we start getting more vaccinations in our area so that we can get everyone vaccinated. But thank you very much to all of those that have given up a lot of time and with COVID testing as well.
And
I have a
just one of
sorry.
people who have been vaccinated, it was nice to see friendly faces there. So it was really great to see some people I knew and trusted.
We have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-044 is from Finance. It is a resolution to award a bid for a cybersecurity services package. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Strayer.
Support Roberts.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments?
Mayor, I would just point out there's a small typo in the bid tab. I don't suppose you were planning on spending $40,340,000. It's actually, and the resolution is correct, but the bid tab had a missed decimal, a comma where a decimal should have been. It's $40,320, obviously.
I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-045 is from Parks and Engineering Services. It is a resolution to award a bid for masonry repairs. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to,
adopt the resolution. Gauss.
Support. Strayer.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-046 is from Parks and Engineering Services. It is a resolution to award a bid for the purchase of a ZTR mower. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Strayer.
Support. Help.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-047 is from Parks and Engineering Services. It is a resolution to authorize the abandonment of a portion of Elm Street. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Strayer.
Support Roberts.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
yes,
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-048 is from the city clerk. It is a resolution to approve the renewal of the commercial marijuana facilities permit application number RM 21-001 for a dual purpose permit for North Coast Testing Laboratories of Michigan LLC. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
move to adopt the resolution. Strayer,
Support, help.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
yes,
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-049 is from the city clerk. It is a resolution to approve the renewal of the commercial marijuana facilities permit application number RM 21-004 for a dual purpose permit for Heads Cannabis Company. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
move to adopt the resolution. Strayer,
Support, Gauss.
Are there any public comments?
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. I guess with regards to Heads, I was hoping that someone could check in to their signage. It appears to be pretty close to the street, and one would think that that would have had to been updated when it was approved.
Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Gauss. Roll call, please.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Strayer,
yes,
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
yes,
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-050 is from the city attorney. It is a resolution to approve amended release agreement for Raisin Valley Land Trust. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
move to adopt the resolution. Strayer,
Support, help.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Mr. Strayer,
yes,
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry,
yes,
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-052 is from Human Resources. It is a resolution to elect to comply with the requirements of PA 152 of 2011 by adopting the annual exemption option for the medical benefit plan for the 2021-22 fiscal year. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Watson.
Support,
Support,
help.
Strayer,
I think I have to give it to you both.
Who'd you give it to, Strayer and who?
Help, they said it right at the
Thank
same
you. I
time.
didn't know who said the other one. Thank
You
you.
give it to Lad. You can give it to Lad. It's fine.
All right, we'll give it to Lad.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gauss. Commissioner Gauss.
Oh, all right. Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry.
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R21-053 is from the City Commission. It is a resolution to initiate a zoning ordinance amendment for the rezoning of 623 Frank Street. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to
Move to
adopt
adopt.
the resolution, Gauss.
Support Castleberry.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Mr. Castleberry.
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
At this time, it is now time for public comment. Just to reiterate, there is a 3-minute time limit. And for the record, please state your name and address.
Would this be public comment for any situation?
Yes, this is not pertinent to any certain resolution or anything. Correct.
Thank you. Susan Carpenter, trustee of the property at 130 Canterbury in the city of Adrian. I've received a couple of snow removal bills. One of them was for a day it was snowing rather than following the ordinance of allowing snow to be removed by noon the next day. The second one was indicated for both sides of the corner lot when really it was just one side of the corner lot. I tried taking this up with Mr. Preston. I've sent emails, I've left voice messages, and I've also sent a letter to the commission and Mr. Elliott, no response given, trying to resolve this issue to make the bills actually correct so I could get the one portion of the one bill paid as soon as possible. Need a little help as far as how to turn and get this resolved. Any suggestions, folks?
We're not allowed to comment back on public comment, but someone may comment during commissioner comments.
Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment, I'm going to move on to commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments?
Mr. Elliott, could you please look into this lady's concern? with the code enforcement group.
Yeah, so Mr. Preston did speak to her on the phone. I also got a snail mail letter from her, which I replied to. So she should be getting that in the mail. Hopefully the mail's getting better than it used to be.
Thank you.
I just have one good note comment. If you have nothing to do tonight at 8 p.m. in just a little bit, we are going to have Adrian resident Rhea Doyle will be on The Voice tonight, battling it out tonight. It was just announced a few hours ago. So if you want to support a local Adrian girl on national TV, that would be amazing. So I just wanted to put that out there. Hearing no more comments, may I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, Watson.
Fort Strayer.
I have a motion from Commissioner Watson and a second from Commissioner Strayer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.